Yesterday at December 14th, about 3:40 in the afternoon, LAPD responded to a residence, the residence of Rob and Michelle Reiner, located in West Los Angeles Division. At that location, they found two deceased adults, a male and a female.
Where police have announced that Rob Reiner's son, Nick Reiner, has been arrested and booked on suspicion of murder in the deaths of his parents, Rob Reiner and Michelle Singer. He's being held on a $4 million bail bond right now.
Obviously, we're looking for so many more answers to so many questions that people have here. And obviously, we're not getting them as quickly as people would like. We can see back here behind me, we've got police lights, and down there we can see the investigation where those clear lights are down there in the distance, those white lights. All of this happening here in this tight-knit community of Brentwood.
Well, this arrest does not necessarily come as a surprise based on the rumors and some of the reports that we had been hearing, but LAPD had been very tight-lipped yesterday when they addressed the media, Diane. So this is certainly a very big development that Nick Reiner is in custody. Now, the LAPD has not clarified what charges he may be facing, or even that it is 100% certain tied to what appears to be a pretty grisly double murder at the home here that's just on the left.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear. Thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Actor and director Rob Reiner has died. He and his wife Michelle Singer Reiner were reportedly found stabbed to death in their home on Sunday.
Last night, he was booked. Today, he's being held on $4 million a bond, and there are no charges listed in the Los Angeles County records that we've reviewed. So we are awaiting those charges, information on those charges.
We have our Robbery Homicide Division handling the investigation. They worked throughout the night on this case and were able to take into custody Nick Reiner, a suspect in this case.
According to the LA Times, on Saturday, family friends told the Times that Rob and Nick got into an argument on Saturday evening at a party at Conan O'Brien's home. So that was something that was seen, it was very public, this argument, and that many people noticed Nick acting strangely at the party. Can I offer an insight right off the bat here? That acting strangely was possibly an early indication, a prelude, that Nick was once again under the influence of something. I mean, something other than alcohol. They were at a party after all. By the afternoon of the next day, Ryan and his wife were found dead, probably several hours after they were murdered. So we really want to know what this argument was about, how bad it was, to what extent guests were inebriated. And I think this suggests that they were murdered the night of the party, that the last thing that sort of happened before they died was this argument that Reiner had with his son. And so probably this crime probably took place the night of the party, or perhaps the early hours of Sunday morning. That is something the medical examiner will need to assess, the time of death. According to the LA Times, on Sunday, Reiner, 78, and his wife were found dead at their Brentwood home around 3:30 p.m. That's quite late. Sunday, that was after paramedics were dispatched for a medical aid call. That's according to Margaret Stewart, a Los Angeles Fire Department spokesman. The two bodies were found inside the home. Sources say one of the couple's children discovered their bodies and the authorities were called. Not disclosed in this article is the identity of the person who discovered the couple. Well, that appears to have been the couple's daughter, Romy, and that must have been pretty traumatic, that discovery. According to the Daily Mail, the couple's daughter, Romy, who lives across the street, is said to have made the grim discovery when she visited their sprawling six-bedroom estate yesterday afternoon. The Reiners also had a son, Nick, 32, a screenwriter who had been known to have struggled with drug addiction and bouts of homelessness. So I think he was actually living with the couple at the time. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I think one of the most important witnesses in this case will be Romy. What did she observe at the party? What did she observe in terms of Nick? Is she going to turn out to be the most important witness for the prosecution? According to the LA Times, a source who had knowledge of the investigation but was not authorized to speak publicly confirmed that there was no sign of forced entry into the home. And this suggests either that someone who lived there committed the crime, or someone who'd previously lived there and certainly had access could have committed the crime. Now, I don't want to throw a span in the works and suggest that Romy could be a suspect. I'm just saying Romy is someone who was the sort of person that had access to them. Who else is there like her in the story? And the answer is Nick. The source also said that the Reiners had injuries consistent with being stabbed. According to the LA Times, on Monday, jail records provide few details but say that Nick Reiner, 32, was being held on $4 million bail, but records do not give any details about the cause for the arrest, but said he was taken into custody at 9:15 p.m. Sunday and booked at 5:04 a.m. Monday. That's pretty fast work, wouldn't you say?
It's not a secret, but my son, Nick, who was one of the writers of the screenplay, had his problems with substance abuse, and he went through a number of rehab programs from the time he was 15 to 19. He's doing very good now.
According to People, in a 2016 interview, Nick spoke about his years-long struggle with drug addiction, which began in his early teens and eventually left him living on the streets. He said he cycled in and out of rehab beginning around age 15, but as his addiction escalated, he drifted further from home and spent significant stretches homeless in multiple states. Now, although American media don't seem to be disclosing this right at the minute, certainly not in the media that I've looked at so far, British media have indicated that the Reiner couple weren't just stabbed, but both had their throats cut. Of course, there's another infamous case that played out in Brentwood, one which also involved someone who had her throat cut and a perpetrator who was, according to some, struggling with substance abuse and addiction as well. And I've written a trilogy of books on that particular case. And I've actually visited Brentwood. By the way, where I am right now is probably as far from that part of the world as it's possible to get. I'm in South Africa, and I don't think there's anywhere further from South Africa than possibly Alaska or Hawaii is maybe a little bit further away. And I must say, when I visited Brentwood, it did have this fairy tale quality, but all fairy tales also have nightmares associated with them. And I think if you're unable to access that world, especially if you're living in it, but you can't enjoy the spoils of it, that has got to be damn frustrating. And that's obviously part of the teeth-grinding struggle that this kid was involved in. And a mystery, an aspect that's not clear, is whether the argument involved anything political, because we know Reiner was quite a unusually outspoken political figure at a time where politics is very divisive. And so one wonders whether this was a factor that triggered the youngster, Nick. And I guess that might be revealed in time. Another case that involves stabbing in the throat, drug addiction as well in the backstory, stabbing with a knife, is the Koberger case. There's also the Amanda Knox case, involves the same trifecta, substances in the backstory, stabbing with a knife, actually 2 knives in the throat as well. In South Africa, there's the Van Breda axe murders, drug addiction alleged in the backstory, but in this case, injuries to the neck inflicted by an axe on all of Van Breda's family members. So in this case, I'd be very interested to know if the knife used in this case came from inside the home or not, and whether this knife was actually recovered. In any event, I'm not going to take it further than that, but we will continue monitoring this story for breaking news, so look out for that. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.